It's Friday, fool, and you need this tool. Welcome back to another glorious episode of It's Friday, fool, you need this tool. My name is Kyle Voss, and on Fridays, I bring you a tool. A tool that I use here in this shop or that I've featured on this channel. So in the past, I've talked rivets on this channel a lot, done a couple Friday videos on different kinds of rivets, different kinds of rivet setters, everything from like a pneumatic air pop riveter. So this thing just uses standard pop rivets, makes the job fast. I've also talked about solid rivets before. So these are just a solid rivet. This is more like an aircraft rivet. You set it with an air hammer and a buck. Done a video on that as well. But this week, it's a little bit different, but it's still about rivets. So this bad boy is what they call a rivet squeezer. This is a stainless piece, very nicely made. Some cast parts, but still, nonetheless, very nicely made. Basically, it does just what it says it does. It squeezes rivets. So instead of a pop rivet style, this is made for solid rivets. Very much like the air hammer and buck style, except for you don't need the air hammer to do this. You just need a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of man strength. Just put your rivet in there, you give it a squeeze, it flattens that thing out, and yeah, you get the job done. So this thing will do all kinds of different style solid rivets, and it has these little jaws that you can actually just pop loose, and you just change them out based on what you need. So depending on the kind of rivet you are using, you just basically change these little dies in here. They just pop in and out. And then this bottom piece here is actually adjustable, so you can screw this thing out or in based on the squeeze depth that you need. If that makes sense. Pretty simple. So with something like this, you could actually do a solid style rivet that you've seen me do in the past with one of these. But you can also use other style rivets. So these are little stainless, little steel rivets, and these work slightly different than the solid rivet where they're kind of hollow on the back, and as you press that thing, it flares it around. So I don't know if you can see the back side of that. It's got, you know, half of it is hollow. The thing that's nice about these is the front side is perfectly smooth and shiny. So these would be great for like leather, or if you just wanted to do some decorative rivets or like around a seat or something, these would be really, really nice for that. Let me kind of show you how these things work. So the rivet just goes in there. And then little squeeze, kind of mushrooms that end. Kind of mushrooms that end a little bit all the way down to the end of the hollow part, and then it actually has a compressed depth there that's built into these rivets itself. It just happens to be that this compressed depth is like 2 sheets of the aluminum that I use, the 063. So it's perfect. These will work out great. I'm sure I'll use them somewhere. I guess if you had to talk about some of the downfalls of using something like this, well, let's look at the positives. So the first thing that's positive, obviously, is that you can take these with you and use them anywhere. You don't need air, you don't need an air hammer, you don't need a buck. The other thing is they're not as violent as using, say, an air hammer. Sometimes if you're not careful with an air hammer, you can really, squish those rivets too much. You can kind of get them a little bit crooked. You can leave marks on your panels. Something like this can be a lot more precise and less likely to mess up your panel or to, mar up the rivet itself. I would say the downfall to something like this is probably strength. So depending on what you're trying to, kind of rivet you're trying to squish, maybe a little difficult with something like this where it's manual versus air powered. And the other thing is reach. So if you're trying to put rivets in the center of a panel, this is not going to do it. This is only going to do it around the edge. I think it has like a 3-inch throat depth, which is pretty standard. You can kind of do rivets around the edge of stuff, but trying to rivet something in the center, just not going to work for something like this. Just like every tool in your toolbox, they all have their place, they all do their specific thing, and the more that you have in your arsenal, a lot of times the better off you are as far as making things go quickly, making things nice, and really just doing stuff that, you know, the average tool can't. This is one of those, the manual rivet squisher, rivet setter. I don't even know what the technical name of this thing is. Here, let's do a little test panel real quick, kind of see how it works. And yeah. All right, so I got 2 pieces of 063 just aluminum sheet metal, just a couple pieces of scrap, drilled just a random size hole in it that's pretty close to what I need. And take one of these rivets, slide it in there. Place that bad boy there. Give it a squeeze and there you go. So you can kind of see what I was talking about, where that rivet was hollow right up to the point where the squeeze ends. And then the front side of that thing is perfectly flush. Nice and clean. So yeah, obviously I didn't squeeze it real tight. I can kind of move these around a little bit, which could be a plus. I mean, if you want something that has some kind of adjustability to it, that's actually a great rivet, you know, to use. And I could probably screw this thing out just a little bit and give it another squeeze and like set it permanently. No, still moves, but probably just the depth of this rivet, the way that it's made. All right, guys, there you go. The rivet setter, squisher, whatever you call this thing, this week's tool. As always, I'll drop you some links in the description. You can go check these things out for yourself if you feel like it's something you want to add to your arsenal. There you go. You're welcome. As always, thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys some more this week. It's Friday, fool.